Welcome to People I Think Are Cool. I'm your host, Liz Reed, one part of the art duo Cuddles and Rage, and this is my podcast where I review cool, interesting, creative people. Today on the show, we have Steve Casino. I have been following Steve's work on Instagram for, I think, almost a decade, and it was amazing to actually get to sit down and have a conversation with him. Steve's work is really unique. He makes sculptures, mostly of people, out of little peanuts. And sometimes he does like pop culture stuff or he makes monsters. He is an amazing artist and he is one of the most productive people I have ever met. He is constantly creating, which is a huge inspiration to me. He's always the best at showing process videos, and we get into that a bit in this conversation. I think one of the juiciest tidbits, though, is the heat that he gets from people whenever he creates art out of old NES cases or games. People go nuts over that one. And the cool attitude that Steve has about it is he shares all the crazy people and their comments out there and replies to them, which you don't see a lot from artists today. So I love Steve's attitude. I love his approach to art. And I think this is a great conversation for all different kinds of artists to enjoy. So guys, without further ado, enjoy my chat with the wonderful Steve Casino. Well, I think when it comes to your art, okay, it's official now, just so you know. When it comes to your art, I feel like so many people have probably covered your origin story. So I feel like, instead of going into that here, I just want to point people to your YouTube video where, what is it called? Like the man who paints nuts?
Yeah, something like that. It was so long. It's pretty old now, but
It's 2013.
like Painter of Nuts, I think it's
Yes,
called.
Painter of Nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's the perfect video for people to go watch to kind of like see how you got into it. But what was fascinating to me is that I didn't realize that through painting, these peanuts that, that was actually for you. That's how you learned how to paint.
Right.
So how did you teach yourself? Because you're so good at it.
Well, I mean, okay, so like in high school, I had this like really good watercolor artist. He was my high school art teacher, but he was really good at watercolors. And he taught me watercolors like all those years ago, but I never did that before, after that. So when it came time to paint the peanuts, and I experimented like with different ways, like acrylics, and finally I came up with this method where it was just like painting with watercolors. Like I get basically the flesh tone that I want, and then I just start doing like transparent layers on top of it, just like back then. But what I didn't know is that I could see things really small, and I never realized I could do that till I started painting this. Like I could see really, really small.
Like, what do you mean, like really small, like details or?
Yeah. Like painting an eye that's like a millimeter wide. It's I had no idea that I could do that until I was like 45 years old. So,
I mean, does that take a particular brush? Because I'm painting sculptures too, and I still have a really hard time like getting those fine lines.
yeah, I found some brushes. It's like called Velvet Touch 18-0 brushes, and those, but I could do it with a normal paintbrush. I just got to get the tip really pointed. But
Yeah.
it's more like control. I'm like holding my finger, going that. But the fact that I didn't even know that I could see that small, And,
Yeah.
and
So like without like a magnifying glass or anything like that.
Right.
Like
I have probably in the last year started when I'm painting like things like Tic Tacs, I'll go not a magnifying glass, but like reading glasses, like 2x reading glasses. And that helps me, but they give me a really bad headache. So I can only use them for a little bit, but I only use them for the smallest minute detail.
So you started with peanuts, but then were you like, I'm going even smaller. I'm going to a Tic Tac, and then are you going to a grain of rice next? Like,
No, it's actually I don't really like painting that small. It's just something that I tried to do, and I like the way it looks. And but I just like art of all different kinds, and I'll see like now I'm really into folk art, and I want to do more of that, and like wood and really rudimentary looking things. It's like I get bored, and I want to try different things.
which I think is funny because, like talking earlier, like you have a creative job.
Hmm.
So then you have a creative day job, but then you also have creativity after. So
Yeah.
it's almost like you're unstoppable. A lot of people, find when they're creative during the day, like they kind of like run out of that energy. So how do you keep going?
Well, sometimes it overlaps. Like recently I did something in my artistic, career, and the toy industry, it actually was something that worked out for the toy industry. So we're showing that as an invention in the toy industry.
Oh,
So
weird.
yeah. So it just, because I can't tell what's a good art idea or what's a good toy idea anymore. You know?
I mean, for you with your ideas, I mean, a lot of it, at times is like pop culture, like, based on
Hmm.
like portraits or like you said, caricatures of people on your
Hmm.
2013 video.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. No, it's basically what can I paint the shining on now? You know.
yes.
So
Well, do you think it's important for artists to, take on like popular IP to gain an audience? Because that was always something that I was kind of, when I first started putting my art out there, I was like a little bit against, but like more and more, like everybody I talk to, they're like, you got to have something that people can hold on to, to be introduced to your art. And I feel like that strategy has worked really, really well for you. Like, I mean, I don't know. It probably wasn't a
yeah.
strategy, but
No, it wasn't a strategy. It's like ever since I was a little kid, and I'd see like caricature artists that would like blow my mind that they could like do something cartoony of someone that I knew, like Jack Nicholson, for example, and so I just kind of gravitated towards it. Oh, my uncle was an artist for Westinghouse when I was a little kid. He went to the Art Institute of Pittsburgh, and he was a professional illustrator. And I just remember going to his house, and he had a caricature of Richard Nixon sitting on the toilet, and I just thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen in my life. I was like 4, so I just kind of like I'm like I want to do that. So I was one of those guys. I would work at a fair, things like that, and I'd draw caricatures like sitting there. And I wasn't very good at it, frankly, but I got paid. But I mean, there are people who are geniuses at it, but I was like not so great. But I just like doing it, and I think I've always gravitated towards doing representational art, like things that look like people that other people recognize, and then so then I also like to do monsters. So then my monster is my outlet to not make things that look like people. You know.
well, yeah, I was looking at your Coke video, and I've seen a lot of your monsters just like
Mm-hmm.
organically in my Instagram feed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, did you get bored of peanuts? And then want to move on
Yeah.
to like Coke cans and then video
No,
game cartridges?
no. What happened? It was an organic transition. So I'd been painting the outsides of peanuts, and then finally one day I'm like, what if I just cut the peanut and I have this little guy peeking out of it, and then I had like a monster and a brain. I'm like, that was really fun. So I was like looking around for different things to do it, and I found like a deodorant container. I'm like, well, the deodorant looks like it could be like a helmet. So I sculpted a brain in there, and I drew a little guy in like a stick of deodorant. I'm like that was really fun. So I'm like, what else can I do? And then I'll do that, and then I'll exhaust it, get sick of it, and then I'll go back to peanuts or try to find something else.
No,
I'm
it's
just
so creative.
oh, thanks. No, I mean I'm an inventor, so that's I try to invent different ways to entertain myself, basically.
Well, what I find trying to use different materials is that sometimes I just like collect a pile of trash. I'm like, is this trash or is this innovation? So have you found yourself in that position, or are you a lot more
Yeah,
discerning?
yeah. I'm not down in my studio right now. You would see that. I have a closet and I just open it up and things fall out, you know, like just weird stuff.
Yeah.
Last night I had a flood. My washing machine flooded, and it came all over the floor, and it soaked into my comic book collection, which I never even, you know, not all of it, but some of it. So I had to take them all out of the boxes. So the entire basement is covered with comic books and stacks.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it's a mess.
That's terrifying. I'm glad you were
Mhm.
able to like rescue them.
Yeah, but
Gosh.
it was messy, and I was trying to clean it up, and then it got even more messy. So we're not down
Yeah.
there. We're the only clean room in my house. So
I mean, that's like being a homeowner or just like living in a house in general. You're like, well,
exactly.
I don't get to call anybody to fix this. The pluses and minuses.
Yeah, especially when I call people, they never show up. So just kind of
No.
live with it.
Well, one of my favorite things, like seeing in your Instagram feed, outside of your art, is I really, really like your approach to trolls. Like the bigger you get, the bigger following you get, like the more like, feedback you get, positive and negative.
Mhm.
Um, how did you decide to just be so transparent about like the weird and like kind of nasty, but often like there's the weird comments that people make about your art?
Well, at first I got really, it's like the knee jerk reaction is like, how dare you? Like I get mad, and then I'm like, that's not gonna. I think I actually snapped back on one person, and it didn't go well
Oh,
because he's like I gave him what he wanted, and he just started attacking me and belittling me and doing things. So then I'm like, that's not a really good approach. So when I was a little kid, I had these books from Mad Magazine by this cartoonist named Al Jaffe, and they're called Snappy Answers to Stupid Questions. And it would show a guy saying, "Are you taking out the garbage?" And the guy would be holding garbage, and then it would say, "No, I'm doing this. No, I'm doing this." And they're just like really smart alecky answers. And then you could actually write your own answer in the bottom. And I just love those. So I'm like, I'll just answer him with sarcasm, and so or just weird replies.
yeah, yeah.
And then I like said, thought I'm like kind of creating entertainment by writing this, and this is actually more fun than doing artwork, so I'm going to post it for everyone to see.
I mean, it really is, and it's therapeutic for other artists to see that, to just know that, no matter how big you get, it doesn't go away. You just kind of have to get thicker skin or like, or have
Hmm.
fun with it like you're doing. But one thing that I really did appreciate that you clarified for me is that, okay, so we've covered that you do peanuts and you do Coke
Hmm.
cans and deodorant bottles, deodorant sticks. But also when it comes to like the gaming cartridges, like you do
Oh
like
yeah.
amazing art with them. People that I feel like that's where you
Yeah.
get the most flat, like the most heat, is
Uh-huh.
when, how are you destroying these treasures? Like, do you mind sharing how you do those?
Well, I mean, it started off, and I got invited to be in a Mario art show in New York, and I made a big giant Nintendo cartridge and I'm like, this would be cool because let me back up. Like my peanut artwork and things like that, it's very small, and like when it's in a gallery, I found that I have to like put giant photographs behind it for people to even like notice that it's there because the stuff's
Yeah.
so small. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to make something big. So I made a big oversized Mario, Mario 1 cartridge. And I had Mario inside as a sculpture. He was like trying to escape out of the cartridge. And I don't actually think it's sold, but I got a really good reaction online from it. And then someone's like, why don't you just do this to actual cartridges? I'm like, that's a good idea. So I just took that idea and I remade it that big, and it got even more of a reaction, but it got a very negative reaction too, because and at that point I hadn't even shown a video of me making it. And then when I showed a video of me actually cutting into it, that just all these Nintendo collectors, which I was not aware that they're so passionate, just went crazy and savagely attacked me. And they couldn't see that I was making artwork. They could just see that I was cutting into a Nintendo cartridge. And then lately, in the news, especially during the pandemic, there's been a lot of auctions for these cartridges, where like a mint Mario, like one cartridge, like sealed, went for maybe $1 million. So now they have it in their heads that I'm destroying these things that are worth like so much money, and it's gotten even more savage. And I found that like going over to TikTok, where it's a much younger audience generally than Instagram, and they don't know anything about the cartridges except what they hear in the news. They're the most savage, and they've death threats, and you know, and it's gone on Reddit, and people wanted to come to my house and kill me for doing this, and it's like, it's, I take it lightly, and I don't think, I mean, they're basically gamers who don't leave their basement, so they're not actually going to leave the house and kill me, but they make threats. So, yeah.
I mean, I didn't know it was that intense. I mean, I thought it was just your little, like, the crazy things that you share. I remember writing to you and I was like, look, if you have a Flintstones game, like, don't touch it. Like, you need to, like, flip that on eBay or something.
No, I don't have the really good Flintstones game, but actually one of my favorite games is the Flintstones Rescue of Dino and Hoppy. It's like a total, stupid game, but for some reason I love the Flintstones, and music was good, and I just like playing it. It's my happy place.
But you've kept that one sacred, right?
Yeah, I actually have that sealed.
Oh, wow.
Like I have a sealed copy, and I have another one. So, but I'm not really a Nintendo collector. I just, what I played with, I like to have a nice copy of.
No. Well, I mean, you have an appreciation for the things that you really like. It's
Right,
almost like
right.
I wish I could reach out to those collectors and be like, no, I understand your
No,
passion.
no, and most of the time I'm just messing with them, and they're not even real cartridges. I just make them. I
Yeah.
take
What,
blanks and
you
I put a
make them?
label on it. Yeah, some of them, like lots of them.
How?
It's like, no, you can buy a blank cartridge, and then I go on eBay and I find a really good photograph of the label, and then I'll make a copy of it and slap it on there, and it looks like the real cartridge.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought
No,
you were like building the cartridge.
no. At first, I was using purely real cartridges, but then it was like this is getting really expensive, because like a game like Punch Out, the cartridges are now $35 to $40. It's
Oh
like,
man, I
I could
saw
keep.
one went for $8,000. Sorry, not to,
Yeah. No, I
not
can
to
keep my
interrupt
overhead.
you.
I can keep my overhead really low if I just make them. So, I have graphic design skills. So,
No, that's genius. And you're really good at it too.
thank
But
you.
I just want to apologize for all the death threats. I mean, that's
No.
terrifying.
Yeah, it was weird. Like sometimes my blood runs cold when someone writes me a really particularly nasty, uh, you know, text or direct message. Like one guy was like, "I'm reporting you to the IRS." I'm just like sending it, because basically, apparently, people can do that. You can report anyone to the IRS.
Oh,
So yeah, so
but
he's like,
like,
"You're gonna get audited."
I mean, okay, thanks.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
really sure you're like at the top of their list of people to audit.
Yeah.
Oops, you froze on, we froze. Let me know when we've unfrozen on your
Oh,
end.
oh, you're frozen. Oh no, you're
Okay.
not
Am
frozen.
I good now?
Okay.
Okay, cool. So I love that you are like so busy. You're always creating.
Hmm.
The one thing that like if I could like absorb from you in this conversation is
Okay.
how the heck do you film yourself so often? Because I'm such a weenie. I'm like, oh my God, I have to get out my camera and then I have to like transfer the footage. But you make it seem so seamless. So can you walk me through your process?
Okay. So I I have like this like arm that goes over the table, and I talk on the phone a lot while I'm working. I multitask. I'll watch a movie, talk on the phone, work. because that's the only way that I could have a life. and I record like, now I'll be doing this and I'll record 1 minute, and then I'll, whenever I get to milestones with whatever I'm making, I record a minute or so, or 30 seconds, and it just adds up. And it's like, I made that a habit, like not probably halfway through me doing this artwork. And I don't record everything I make, because some of it is, personal, someone's aunt. I'm not going to, like Aunt Gladys, I'm not going to make a video of me making Aunt Gladys for someone, but if it's someone people recognize, I'll do that.
Is it just on your iPhone or?
Mm-hmm. And if I need my iPhone to talk to people, I'll just go on like, instant messenger, and I'll call someone through that. So then I have my phone in my disposal, and I'll be talking to them through messenger. And I'll be watching, whatever.
I mean, I love hearing what you're watching or what you're listening to. When I was watching like the Coke video, is it Coke Man or Coke Mon? I can't like.
I have no idea.
Okay, let's say I think it was Coke Mon. So when I was watching that video, I was kind of walking around with my AirPods, like getting water while it was still playing, and it just felt like a piece of art itself, like the audio behind it, because there was all these snippets of like what you were listening to. And I feel like it was just such a time capture. I was like, at one point, are you listening to like a dog rescue show?
Yeah. No, I like it, because then sometimes I'll be on there talking on the phone, like, sell. but it's, I like doing that. And that's also something, people write to me and complain about. They're like, I don't want to hear, why don't you put music in your videos? I don't want to hear your snippets of things. But it doesn't, I just, whatever seems appropriate to put in the background, whether it's the actual sound from it or music, I just make it up as I go along.
Oh, I love the sound bits. I mean, I think that's so much more interesting than music. I mean, that's like everybody just pulling up like the library music on YouTube and putting it on there. It's like, I know that song.
Right, exactly.
Right. Or it's like always the strumming guitar.
Yeah, it's the worst music in the world. It's like, I've tried to find, I found some actually good hip hop music, maybe 2 songs out of like 1,000 searches, but it's hard to find. Or you want like a, up tempo punk, pop punk soundtrack, and it's just horrible.
Yeah.
It's like Blink 182, done by my mother. So.
Well, it's weird because that music is supposed to like represent you and your tone.
Exactly.
And so if you're not going to get that right, then just, share what you're doing in the process of making the art. Like,
Right.
So I love your approach.
The worst is when I have a cold and you can hear me like going.
I'm gonna try and find that.
No, because I'm like really close to the camera trying to paint.
I like that you don't even edit that out. You're like, no, that's me. That's true.
Exactly. We're just too lazy.
Well, I think I'm just learning so much from this conversation and just kind of digging deeper into your work about just, I like how chill you are with the approach to it, because I find that, especially for me this past year, like I've just overthought things so much that it's made me just freeze and I don't post that much anymore. And I've always had an appreciation for
I noticed
how
that.
consistent you are. Yeah. Well, I mean, I got into like a crazy deep depression, and it's like when you like I didn't want to make art. I'm out of it now. But yeah, I think getting back into it, I'm gonna pull some of your vibes, because it's like you should just post stuff and not take it too seriously. Does that make sense? Like I know you take your art seriously, but like not feeling like every edit has to be perfect or whatnot.
No. I'm definitely not a perfectionist. And I get depressed too. And sometimes it's like, what am I doing? Or, but then that's why I do a lot of different stuff, because I could switch over and maybe this will satisfy me this night. because I try to work every night. I was talking to my girlfriend last night. And I'm like, I wish I was the kind of person who could just sit around and watch like that Patrick Swayze movie Roadhouse, just like sit on the couch and watch it. And I have to be working or doing something. I just can't sit here in this chair and watch something. And
Yeah.
that's pretty much my life.
No, I used to do that too more, and then I just stopped. But I'm the same way. Like if I'm not moving my hands, I'll fall asleep.
Mm.
So I'll
Oh
sit down and watch the
yeah.
movie, but I'll just like pass
Mhm.
out. And I love that you picked Roadhouse. Like very good choice.
No, it was on last night, and it was like I just saw it for the first time last year. I'm like, this is the greatest movie I've ever seen in my life. It's so funny and cheesy, and it's a time capsule of the '80s, and
Yeah,
you know.
no, it absolutely is. I mean, doesn't he wear like one of those like tank top type things? I feel like everybody like Macho Man of the 80s had like the skinny string tank
Yeah,
top.
yeah. I grew up in Pennsylvania, like on the Ohio border, and actually bars were like that back then. So it was like a lot of big
Really?
hair, big hair. Everybody had
Oh,
big hair, women and men.
total time capsule. So
Hmm.
I guess winding down a couple more questions here.
Okay.
So like, we pull from like our nostalgia and like what we pull from. So like your first peanut was like one of the Ramones, right?
Right, right.
So do you feel like you have to stay up to date on pop culture to like make peanuts of what the kids like nowadays?
No, not really. It's just I just make what I like. If I make what I like, then at least some people are going to like it. I found that if I do something that really like trips my trigger, then at least other people will see my passion or enthusiasm for
Yeah. I mean, there's always
it.
somebody else who likes the same thing. Like Shining, like you said.
Right, right.
More
No, that's the
Shining.
thing. No, that's the thing. It's like I could make a shining thing every single day of my life, and somebody will buy it or want it. So, and I like The Shining. It fascinates me, and I love the subject matter. And I could make something all the time, and I wouldn't get bored. But I want to do other things. But it's kind of funny because if like pop culture today is like so nothing really sticks like it used to. So a band like the Rolling Stones, it's like that's why they're touring, and they're 80 years old because they're you know a mainstay. But there's not really anything like that from say the 90s, so much. So I sit around and I try to think of things that I get excited about that I want to make or whatever. And it's like U2, like U2 is the biggest thing in the world. It's like now nobody really cares about U2, you know.
Yeah.
And
That's such
but
a fascinating point.
there's certain things that stuck and certain things that didn't stick. So
Well, since it takes so much time to like make sculptures, I feel like if you are scrambling to like hit that next meme, it's almost like you won't be able to make it in time unless that's
oh
all you
yeah,
want to do for the
no,
next 24
no,
hours.
it's funny. It's funny because like Squid Game, which was really good. And it's like I can't believe how fast people were putting out like Squid Game action figures, within like days of it airing or the
Yeah.
next day. And it's really cool, but it's like, it's not the kind of game to play for longevity. It's like, it'd be really hard pressed to sell a Tiger King sculpture today.
Well,
You
there's
know?
a season two. There's a season two. So
Oh, there is.
there's
Oh,
time.
there is. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's like everything's so fleeting, it's
Yeah.
it's just really hard to, like Stranger Things, everything just gets red hot and then disappears and then red hot and disappears.
I mean, that is so true. I've never really
Mm-hmm.
stepped back and thought of
Mm-hmm.
that aspect of it. I've also just not tried to chase things so hard, but
Yeah.
um yeah,
No,
you're right.
I mean, that's why I make monsters, and it's like why you make fruit and pizza. The faces.
I'm trying
Like
to expand.
pizza's going to be around forever.
No, that's so true. That's so true. Um, Oh, before I let you go with my final question, I just have to,
Mhm.
knowing your background now, being an inventor and going back to the shining piece, um, like it makes so much sense now, I guess just to describe it to people, because like your sculptures sometimes are more like toys or they're
Mhm.
moving and stuff like that. So
Right.
for people that like didn't know that you could do that,
Mhm.
was that just like a huge reveal, like whenever you showed your shining piece? Because I, in my mind, that was the first piece of yours that moved that you shared. I don't know if there was one before that.
There were a couple before it, but that was the first one that was like was that complicated and
Okay.
had different sides and different things going on. And that was I'm also a toy collector. Like I have lots and lots of old toys, and I'd see these Fisher Price toys around. These wait, I have one right here. Hold on. So I'd go to flea markets and I'd see these wooden toys, right?
Yeah.
And like, so this is Ripley, and she's like shooting the alien, and the alien spins around like he's being riddled with bullets.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, so I'd see these everywhere, and it's like those aren't cool toys, and they're not. You could go to a toy show and you could buy one of these for $3. But
Yeah.
finally one day I'm like, that could be really good to put The Shining on, or so. so I took it and I translate, and nobody. I think maybe a couple people have done it since then, since I did it, but I just thought it was a cool vehicle to make. It's really funny because it's like you're taking something really horrible like The Shining with Jack Nicholson and putting on a really young preschool toy.
No, it's like the
Yeah,
perfect marriage.
yeah. It just a lot of things I do because I have a sick sense of humor, and it just cracks me up to do that. I mean, 40 hours of work just to make myself laugh. You know?
But then you're making the world laugh.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you find that within the kind of like pop culture artist world, I mean, I guess I'll make a statement for myself. I'm finding that a lot of people are having to like push the limits outside of just making prints, like because like remaking like He-Man toys and all that is
Mhm.
like coming back into style.
Right.
And I feel like you're ahead of the curve because you're already taking art and like turning it into something more than just a sculpture, bringing it to life.
Hmm.
So I see more of that in the future of like artists having to like push themselves further with their art so that it stands out from the crowd.
Hmm.
But I guess as somebody who's already doing that, like making their art come to life, I guess, are you seeing more people following that trend as well? And if so, like, where does it stop or does it ever?
Uh, no, one thing I've noticed, like, because I've been on Instagram pretty much from the beginning, that it is, you know, what they call the algorithm.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that it's changed a lot. And I noticed that when I put something up that's really weird, it gets way more engagement than if I just put my artwork up. Like it's like the algorithm feeds on controversy. And like when people scream at me and call me horrible names and I write funny things back to them, I get way more engagement with that than I do my actual artwork because of this algorithm and the way it works. And like lately, and I haven't done this on purpose, but I just thought it was funny to do like newborn cartoon characters. So I had like Mario, and I had he was birthed from a Nintendo cartridge, and he's like laying there in the ground with his umbilical cord, and it's trailing out of the slot in the cartridge. He's laying there, and that it got tons of engagement. But if the next day I just put something else like normal artwork, it's like it's almost like, and people have complained to me that they don't even see my artwork anymore.
Yeah.
So it's weird that you have to pander to this weird algorithm. But so as an experiment, then I did another one. I did Homer Simpson, like birthed from a can of Duff beer, so that he's coming out of the slot of Duff. You know, the And again, tons of engagement because it's weird and kind of gross because he's like slick with amniotic fluid or whatever that's called, placenta. I don't know. Yeah, but so I've noticed that a trend, like, it's gone that way, and it's like I'm not trying to keep up on that hamster wheel, trying to get more engagement or whatever, but it's something that I've noticed.
Yeah. Oh, that's
So
hilarious. I have to go
yeah.
back and do that. Honestly, I think the best way to do it is I have to do it with you is like just put notifications on. Like that's the only
Hmm.
way that like I can keep track of people that, I
Right.
truly care about seeing. Um, or else it does just like completely get filled with trash. And then you're
Yeah.
like, oh, and then just at the point you're like, oh, I follow this person. And maybe I shouldn't be following like 1,000 people. Like, can you
Right,
really keep
right.
track of 1,000 people?
Yeah.
Well, I guess since you're like bursting with creativity at all times, my last question for you
Sure.
would be, uh, I guess, what do you do when you get stuck?
I just never get stuck.
No,
but
that's bullshit. You gotta give me something.
no, it's weird. It's like I basically I never did artwork for art's sake until I was older. So now it's just like I constantly come up with ideas. So it's like I can't even. I have tons of commissions, and I'm trying to get those done. And I used to take commissions because they would sometimes take me in a territory that I wasn't comfortable with. Like best example is Breaking Bad. Like I never watched Breaking Bad, and then someone hired me to make Breaking Bad peanuts, and then that brought me huge. It was the time when it was peaking on Netflix, and it was like
Yeah.
that got me like a gazillion like followers and commissions and things like that. And but it's like since the pandemic and people are sitting there at home with their stimulus checks, I got so many commissions because I couldn't say no that I'm still like catching up. And I'm finishing things that I got hired for like last October, like a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not fun because like having that hanging over my head, but I like the money, you know? So,
I mean, that's like a hard balance. I
mhm.
have a group of artists that I meet with, and they have the artist career mentality. It's like if you want to, live off your art, you have to make money off it. You can't just like pick and choose what you want to make. But I feel like
Right,
you
right,
still
right.
have the best of both worlds. Even though you got the
Yeah.
commissions, you still get to you still
No,
get to
no,
make what you want.
no, I know. I got in over my head and I'm catching up and I cut off commissions months ago. So there is an end to it. But I like the way you do it because you're doing stuff, but you do books and you come up with ideas for books. And I have an agent now to do a book and they want me to do a book. And I have to, at some point just stop doing commissions and do a book. So I'm not
Yeah.
sure. There's a couple book ideas out there, but one is a children's book, one is a humor book, and we'll see how that goes. But it seems the next logical step to do something like that instead of just painting someone's aunt. You know, so
Which is very sweet and
yeah,
nice and touching.
yeah,
I used to do
yeah,
dog sculptures,
yeah, yeah,
until
yeah,
it's so
yes.
much pressure though when you get something wrong. Like you're like, oh,
Oh
like
yeah. No,
it's just
especially if it's
inevitable.
like almost every Christmas, I end up doing like a couple or a few couple. Like someone will get them for their wife or fiance them for their Christmas gift, and then inevitably the wife or fiance does not like my peanut of her, and I have to do it again, and it's just like, oh, you know, I don't
Bless
want
you
to
for actually doing it
get it.
again versus
Yeah,
being
yeah,
like, it's a peanut.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. Exactly. It's like okay, it's this big, and it's not going to look exactly like you. There has to be a little leeway. So.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, Steve, where's the best place for people to find you? I'll also have links in the show notes and whatnot, but for people
um,
listening.
I'm Steve Casino Art on Facebook and Steve Casino on Instagram. And I have a website, but I haven't updated it in a very, very long time. And last time I saw someone had what's that called? Attacked it with something, and they're selling Viagra from my website. So don't go on there
No.
unless you want Viagra. So
Like, is it a Viagra site right now?
it might be that I have I've had several people write me. So I wrote to GoDaddy and I said, apparently I'm selling Viagra. So can you do something about it?
That's
So
hilarious. Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
it's no big deal.
Yeah. But of all things, Viagra. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
in some ways you'd be like, it's tame to what it could have been. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Man. Well, Steve, thank you so much for this awesome conversation.
You're welcome. It was fun.
Thank you so much to Steve for being on the show. Go check out the show notes for where you can find Steve and all of his amazing work. For today's movie recommendation, I'm going with an art theme. It is the 2013 documentary Cutie and the Boxer. This film is adorable. The movie follows this husband and wife who have been married for 40 years. The husband is an artist, he's a painter, and the wife has always been, very much part of the creative process, but as the assistant. So this documentary kind of covers her coming out of her husband's shadow to create work herself. And it's really cute just to see how loving they are and how frustrated they get at each other. I think it is a really must-see for creative couples like I am in. But this is one of my favorite documentaries, and I feel like it doesn't get talked about enough. So go see Cutie and the Boxer. You should be able to stream it because it's been out for a while. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere. Actually, I have my Letterboxd up so I can cheat. Okay, it's not streaming anywhere right now. But go check out iTunes and see if you can rent it because it really is an adorable story. All right, guys, I know it's been a while since I have been on here consistently, and I appreciate your patience. Little side note, I'm in a much better place now than I was before. I think, if you have to take time for yourself to kind of get yourself back up on your feet, then take that time. Try not feel guilty about it, or don't feel guilty about it. If you don't, I guess it's kind of like the airplane thing, like put your safety mask on first. So I want to create the best content for you guys, and I feel like I'm back in a spot where I can do that again. So stay tuned for more cool people coming up in 2022. Bye.